when we're talking about the academic module or simply the IELTS performance overall in India, so we have to take a look at the figures, right? So how are you guys performing? How have the students previously performed? What's the average? What's the mean? What's going on, right? And as we can see, this is an unfortunate scenario, we can say, because as far as I've experienced personally, all my students, they're like brilliant students. All of you guys are actually absolutely brilliant. And some of you guys are like brilliant engineers. You have such brilliant ideas. Someone is pursuing business, right? But somehow at the end of the day, as we can see, the mean score rests at around 6.5, and that's it. So we have a mean score in listening for about a 6.5, reading just a 6, and the rest of them 6 as well. Now that's unfortunate. And unfortunately this happens because we don't really place a lot of importance, or rather say any importance at all, when it comes to honing communication skills in the second language or in this foreign language, which is English, which unfortunately or fortunately, however we can call it, happens to be an essential tool for your personal growth and your professional growth. So this is a barrier we have to cross. We have to hone our skills, not just for the sake of a 7 or a 7.5. We have to ace that 8. Once you ace the 8, you know you have garnered the skills, you know that you have practiced enough that you can actually confidently speak. You can confidently write your thoughts. You don't have to depend upon a software. A software can save you in writing. It can definitely not save you when speaking much. So you have to be able to hone these skills for your own sake. So we're trying to understand what's going on here. Now, as you can see, it's a 6.5 in listening. Now, when we talk about listening in terms of scoring, listening and reading are probably the easiest sections there are. So if we just like divide it in like 2 versus 2, we say listening and reading would always be the easiest sections, or the easier sections rather say, that would give you the advantage, the score push in order to get that overall score going. When it comes to the writing and speaking, especially writing, majority of the people have difficulty because frankly those two are comparatively more difficult than listening and reading. So when it comes to listening, why is it just a 6.5? There are various difficulties that students usually face. Now you guys definitely face many of these difficulties, which are like common questions and common mistakes, common queries among students. We usually often hear this complaint that, oh, it's a matter of accent and when we talk about language acquisition, see, this I'm talking about a little from the linguistic perspective, that when let's say there's a person who has a different mother tongue and they're going for learning the second language, they're going to learn the second language later in life. Okay, so because majority of the students whom we are dealing with, they're above 16 or above 15 minimum, up till, I don't know, like 40-ish almost. And we don't really have a cap there, right? So, but yeah, it's mostly that you guys, we can say you guys are like mature learners, we can say, or teenage learners even. But then, yeah, the point is that language learning happens to be a matter of some opportunity, some privilege, we can say, because you need some exposure, you need to learn the structure, you need to have, either you learn the structure voluntarily and then practice through curriculum in an academic approach, or else you naturally acquire the language through exposure by living somewhere, maybe in India, maybe abroad, where people around you are speaking in that tongue or speaking in standard tongue in that language. So ultimately it's a matter of exposure to some extent. How much like how much time of the day, like how much time do you usually spend in speaking that tongue? How much time are you spending in writing in that? How much time are you spending in listening to that? You absolutely need the input, the listening, the reading. These are the inputs that you're getting in the language front. You're absorbing. Oh, I'm absorbing. Okay, yeah, this is how the sentence looks like. This is how the preposition looks like. This is how, where the preposition's supposed to be. This is where the adverb's supposed to be, right? And we don't really always pick it up from a grammar book. We pick it up usually by reading stuff. So you can read a novel, you can read a non-fiction book, whatever you're interested in. You can read a newspaper for all we care. You can just read anything which is worth reading and which has the English language used in a standard manner. I'm saying standard English, why? Because of course there are dialects. Just like in Hindi, for example, you have the standard Hindi, which is used for scholarly purposes or publishing. You also have Hindi, which is dialectal, which is used in regional ways. But they are not going to be accepted when it comes to academic considerations, would they? Now, which is why just for English also, when you're watching something, when you're reading something, make sure you're reading or watching something which is more towards the standard usage of English, because that's what we're trying to learn as non-natives. We're trying to learn the standard English usage. And most importantly, again, talking about language acquisition, students make various mistakes. When you're starting to plan on preparing for a test like IELTS, you cannot just think, okay, I can just barely scrape by and get a 6.5. I can barely scrape by and get a 7. I can give you 1,000 ways to do that. We will also give you these shortcuts. We would give you these tips and tricks that you can use to ace your IELTS in just about a day or two. But that's really not going to help you in the long run, because ultimately you're going to be going there, you're going to be staying at a place where you would not have the privilege of speaking your mother tongue. So let's just realize what we are in for, because the study abroad perspective, it's a whole plan, right? We plan for the whole thing. We have a plan for the budget. We plan for our, if someone's taking a loan, they have a whole plan set up. Okay, yeah, this is how I'm going to pay it back. They have a plan for applications, the university selection, all of that. You're planning for all of that. You're planning for your student profile to make it attractive. But then we don't really plan for the social integration or the social immersion that has to happen in order for a student to not feel left out or lonely or to face troubles or practical issues when they are abroad. So let's say your IELTS preparation is a key to solving that for you at the later date. So again, we are talking about the score, the 6.5, the 6 in these sections. Well, I can assure you, if you are committed to watching our videos and practicing alongside in the timeline that we would provide you, and I would personally provide you with these methods, these tricks, and these tips to follow, you would absolutely gain 7 or more in just a few days. It's not going to be just a matter of 7. You can easily get an 8 if you're currently performing anywhere around 6.5. You can scale up 0.5, 1.5 easily within a few days just by minding your mistakes. Because see, when talking about mistakes, in linguistics we have two sorts. We have broadly two sorts of mistakes when we categorize mistakes. We have proficiency errors and we have competency errors. Now, in layman's terms, let's say, proficiency error would be, or let's say performance error, let's say. We're saying competency error and performance error, let's say. So performance error is when you know that when I have a subject which is third person singular, and the verb will definitely take an S or an ES. So if it says that he goes to the church, and she is visiting, or she visits so and so place, and so on. So basically the subject is there, which is a third person, he, she, they, anybody else apart from I, you, we, and so like the first and the second person. If it's a third person subject and you have a verb, it's a singular third person, you know there's going to be an S. That S is not a plural S. That S is what is showing you that the subject is actually third person singular. Now, anyhow, if you know the rule and you're still making the mistake, now this is so common. This is so common every day almost. I find my students making similar mistakes sometimes, which is, and they would say the moment they are caught, they would say, oh, it was a mistake, it was a silly, it's a slip, it's a silly error, and so on. But these silly errors we call performance errors. So you know the rule, but you're still making the error because of probably two reasons, and that either it's just like a lack of practice. That's usually a major concern. It's a lack of practice, or else it's just like a matter of mindfulness. So whatever it is, you absolutely need to work on these, and it is easier to work on performance errors. So if someone is making performance errors, so if you are making performance error, and it's just like, just by solving that problem, you can easily scale up 0.5 or 1 point, overall 1 point, just in a matter of a day or two, just by minding your mistakes. But then there are those who have deficiency of some sort. Which is like, if you have competency error or proficiency error, as we call it. So the competency error is when you do not know the rule. So it's a lack of knowledge, or it's a lack of, your system does not know that it has to use the S when there is a third person singular subject. So if the system doesn't know, it doesn't execute it. It's not the system's failure, it's just that the system was never trained, right? So if it's a competency error, then you need more support. And for those of you who want to diagnose what kind of errors that you have, we would make a video dedicated to this topic as to how to understand competency error, as to how to understand performance error, how to segregate, and how to build the best plan to enhance your performance in just a day or two. Because I'm assuring you, if it's a performance error, you can do it in just a matter of days. That's it. Even hours, for that matter. It's because mostly it's a matter of mindfulness and a bit of practice, and you're all set. But if it's a competency error, we have to address the issue beforehand. So if we wait till the very end to address this, it won't bear results. So we'll make a video dedicated entirely to the mistakes, the common mistakes, how to address those, how to understand what kind of mistakes you're making, and I think that will be a valuable addition to your practice. So stay tuned for that as well. Now, yes, so we were talking about, again, we would go back to this whole average score thingy, right? So if we understand exactly where you're standing right now and what kind of mistakes you're making and how to effectively tackle that, we would be able to, in no time, ace the test with a great score.